Richard Rohr is a Franciscan priest. He runs a retreat center based on the contemplative practice of mindfulness and emptying the self. And he is a Catholic that is into the teachings of mysticism and the extraordinary teachings that really are based on universal truths and deep spiritual practice. He said, and I'm going to use a lot from him today. He is blanketing our conversation this morning. He said, the morning glories and the sunflower turn naturally toward the light, but we have to be taught, it seems. He said, sin happens whenever we refuse to keep growing. Sin happens whenever we refuse to keep growing. A unique concept coming from a Catholic leader. Not the idea that sin happens because you did something, right? But sin happens, you miss the mark when you refuse to keep growing, expanding your consciousness, inviting in more love, transforming. This morning is a bit raw, is it not? For a lot of us, it's a bit raw. It makes the idea of living well come to mind in many ways. And this weekend and recent events are a poignant reminder of the passing of life and how precious life is. And here's the thing, we can do a lot for our inner environment, and in Unity we focus a lot on our inner environment, the inner consciousness that produces how we see and how we be with the world. And we know that that consciousness is the birthplace for what happens in the outer world. And I was doing my own practice and reading from Sig Paulson, and there were a few parts that he wrote that came to me in the last 24 hours about community. He said that our relationships with others, our community and our relationships are our greatest work, because racism, divisiveness, poverty, suffering, all of those things affect so much of the outer world, the outer world. And so that being transformed by the inner world, yes, we can always transform our way of seeing everything, but our relationships are where we co-create the outer world. And a lot of what we do in our inner environment raises the enlightenment or the awakening or the mindfulness, whatever you want to call it, the Christ consciousness. But until the Christ is raised among us, there will be useless suffering. Until the Christ is raised among us, until it is supported and brought forth, until it is raised beyond the suffering of humanity, there will be individual suffering, and there will be community suffering. When we operate out of ego, out of our separateness, and out of our suffering, there is pain. And the suffering of one is the suffering of all. I think that we know this, but the ego tries to argue with it. No one can avoid running into the suffering of others. I have a friend that always says with kids, you should just bubble wrap them up when they're little. Just bubble wrap them, wrap it all around, and then let them run around because they need bubble wrap. Well, there's no bubble wrap in life, is there? So the idea that there is addiction, that there is suffering, that there are disparities among people, that there are systems that are not working, the idea that anyone can sit in a lovely palace or a lovely place and not be affected by that is an illusion. It's an illusion. It will come knocking to your door because we are not separate beings. We are one being, one body. And this is one of the beautiful practices of mysticism. This is one of the great teachings, is that it seems that we are separate. It seems like we are different people with separate self-interest. But the truth is, until we know the self that has one self-interest, that is the highest self-interest of all, that is the collective greatest good, until we know that and until that is our guiding light, there will be separation and there will be useless suffering. The truth is, any day could be our last day, right? Any day could be our last day. I knew the topic of this sermon weeks ago. This sermon was always going to be about death, our death. What I didn't know was what a harsh present-day reminder we would have of that on this Sunday. Making it less of an idea to discuss and awaken to, right? Things are always easier when they're not up. It's easy to practice when it's not up. But the time to practice is when it's up, and it's in our faces, and it's in our community, and it's in our world. You know, the daily word we read was from Monday. The Sunday daily word was about serving, which is important. But the one that fell off the podium and said, I want to be heard, is the one that said strength. I have prayed and I've prayed and I've prayed this. And give me the strength to presence it. Give me the strength to know what to do. Give me the strength to show up. Does anyone else feel that? Does anyone else feel like really tired of this seeming useless suffering? It's especially hard when we know there's so much that can be done. El Paso, the California event, and in our own community, 25-year-old Erin McCabe, whose father is one of the pastors at our brother church, the Church of the Resurrection, where Adam Hamilton leads, and their whole family is pretty involved there. And so our hearts go out to our community, our hearts go out to them, our hearts go out to everyone in this area and everyone in our world. And it doesn't stop right here, right? It's everywhere that's affected by useless suffering and useless violence. So let's just take a moment. Will you breathe in with me? Let's take a moment today to make a commitment. No one's going to tell you what your commitment is. It's for you. It's coming to you. With what's on your heart, there is nothing that could be on our hearts that is more heavy than the wings of a commitment could lift up. So feel the depth of what you feel and invite in a commitment. It may be something you stand for. It may be something you do. It may be something you say. It may be something you pray. It may be an action you take, whatever it is. It may be a combination of them. Let it come to you and let its wings be broad. Let its wings be broad enough to know that it will lift this feeling into power and transform it and allow it to be life-generating. So tune in to whatever your commitment is. And when you feel like you have that commitment, I invite you to stand with your hand on your heart. I invite you with the fullness of your power, the fullness of your strength to bless everyone's commitment in this sacred community that goes beyond walls. We bless it. We empower you. We see you strong. We see you lifted. We see you moving energies into a life-giving activity. And we bless you. And we call you blessed. And so it is. Let us sit. So this is your life. This is my life. Any day could be our last, and we don't know when that day is coming, which makes it even more of a divine invitation to live fully in the moment. Not just like spiritual books tell us to because we'll be happier or we'll be more peaceful, but truly because the reality is the moment that we are in is the one we always get. And we get it over and over and over again, but it's the only one that exists. Right now we have it. The more we can live in this moment, the more we can be what we came here to be. The idea that we are going to die is not going to go away. It's not going to go away. And I'm not talking about eternal death. I'm talking about in this physical body, in this time and space. It's not going to go away. It's not a problem to be solved. Can we breathe into that? It's not a problem to be solved. So what are we going to do about it? What if we didn't treat it like it was a problem? What if instead we treated it as an opportunity to look at how we live, really how we live? How would you live if each moment were enough, if each moment were complete? How would you live if each moment were complete? What would that look like for you? What would that feel like for you? For me, I know I would apologize quickly, love fully, forgive easily, be where I want to be, enjoy who I'm with, and be with the people I enjoy being with. That's living well to me. Have you discovered what living well means to you? Have you discovered what living well means to you? What words do you live by? Until we do this, our minds find a way to argue the case of not enough, not good enough, not long enough, not enough, not enough. I have had the great gift of often having older friends. It's been a great gift in my life. Other people don't always think they're my friends. They think sometimes they're my parents or grandparents or something else. And I say, no, those are my friends. And I've always had that gift in my life. And one of the great gifts about hanging out with people that are not in your traditional peer group is the immense gift of perspective you get. It can be hard because it can pull you into the future or into the past. But if you use it just right, it opens a portal into the present moment that you cannot live in unless you listen to others. I have an incredible friend who was buying a car, and this couple went to buy their car and got the new car and came home, and I think we were texting later on that day or talking. I think it was a text because I feel like it hit me like, I feel like I was alone when it hit me and I got to just breathe into it. And they said, they got a car. I said, exciting, that's great, you got a new car. And they said, yeah. And something came in to the effect of breathing into it, because it's also most likely the last car they're going to purchase. And they were really aware of that. Going in to purchase it in my mind, first I just went, and then my mind, you make it a problem. That's a problem. And then counting years and going, wait, what exactly are you saying? What does that mean? How long does a car last? Oh. So, I guess, and then at some point you don't drive your car anymore, right? Usually, sometimes. And I just went, ah. You don't always think about that, do you? You think about the one who just turned 16 and got their first car. But imagine having the presence of mind to tread so delicately, so lightly, that you're really aware of these moments. So you can breathe them in, soak them in, take them in, feel them. Let all of the things that are important be there. And let all of the things that are unnecessary and unimportant just drift away. It doesn't matter what age we are. That gift is an opportunity freely given to each of us in every moment. Each of us in every moment can say, I'll take that gift. Richard Rohr says, in the second half of life, people have less power to infuriate you, but they also have, it says, in the second half of life, people have much less power to infatuate you, but they also have much less power, not to infuriate you, to infatuate you, but they also have much less power to control you or hurt you. Who doesn't wish they got that for the first half of their lives? Intergenerational conversations are essential. They are essential to what Richard Rohr said, where he said sin happens whenever we refuse to keep growing. The collective, the cosmic Christ, the consciousness among us needs these intergenerational conversations, needs the wisdom of lifetimes, and it needs to be actively circulated and recirculated back into our environment like oxygen over and over and over again, in order for the collective to raise up. If we stay in our silos and we don't listen and we don't learn, we will keep living the one life over and over again, and it will be the life of separation, the life of pain, and the life of suffering. I mean, really, when you get down to it, like when you get to a moment, like in your own emotional processing and your own being, don't you sometimes just enter a portal where like there's this movie about humanity on Earth, and it's this movie about how humanity can't get along and keeps trying to destroy itself, and it's like in the mind it seems so simple to get it and to be done with that narrative, to be done with that story, to just have it be gone once and for all. But then you look through history books and it's like, is that just what life does? Is that just how humanity lives? And will humanity always live like that? You know, even those awful kids movies, like the Puff the Magic Dragon that is in the cave, and like there are all these kids movies, and they attack the earth and they attack creatures in this painful way. I mean, maybe it's just me, I'm just overly emotional, but it's like, we kind of train the consciousness in that way and show our nastiness over and over again. But there are moments, like glimpses that I have, that I'm sure you have, where it's just like, it seems like it could be simple to not live this way. Richard Rohr says, it's a gift to joyfully recognize and accept your own smallness and ordinariness. Then you are free with nothing to live up to, nothing to prove, and nothing to protect. Such freedom is my best description of Christian maturity. Because once you know that your I is great and one with God, you can ironically be quite content with a small and ordinary I. No grandstanding is necessary. Any questions of your own importance or dignity has already been resolved once and for all and forever. He also said all the great spirituality teaches about letting go of what you don't need and who you are not. Then, when you can get little enough and naked enough and poor enough, you'll find that the little place where you really are is ironically more than enough and is all that you need. At that place, you will have nothing to prove to anybody and nothing to protect. That place is called freedom. It's the freedom of the children of God. Such people can connect with everybody. They don't feel the need to eliminate anybody. So are we clear about living well? Are we clear with ourselves on what it means to us as individuals, as a community? There is a temptation to wait until things are better, to wait until things are okay, to wait until we get it right. But that's not life, is it? If you wait needlessly. Richard Rohr says this, and the second half of this is a lot to take. He said the most common one-liner in the Bible is "do not be afraid." He says someone counted and it occurred 365 times. That's one of my favorite old Catholic songs from growing up in the church. Be not afraid. And he says this about the master teacher. He said, the most amazing fact about Jesus, unlike almost any other religious founder, is that he found God in disorder and imperfection. He found God in disorder and imperfection and told us that we must do the same or we would never be content on this earth. He told us that we would be the same or we will never be content on this earth. To me, a sign of spiritual maturity is being able to step out of the argument that one cannot have both, that one cannot demonstrate what Richard Rohr is talking about, what the master teacher is talking about, that one cannot have a practice of peace, living in this moment and allowing this moment to be complete, while at the same time presencing with radical compassion human suffering and standing up for the cosmic Christ consciousness among us to develop, to be engaged, for the awakening to happen among us, for change to happen, for a shift to happen, to stand up, to speak about that loudly, to be in that place, to be a part of the change, to know that change needs to happen. See, the ego will say, well, then things are wrong, then it's, I can't be in this and be in that. Can't we? Can't we? The invitation this week is to write your live by assignment. Write your live by assignment. When I was a teacher, which was one of the greatest gifts of my life to this date, it wasn't the educating that was the greatest gift. It was to be a witness, to share, to see the love, and to have the honor of beholding the beauty in other people's children. And I had a little unique situation because I applied for these jobs, and I ended up taking one that was as a kindergarten teacher, which is not the grade I wanted to teach. If you've ever taught kindergarten or you know a kindergarten teacher, you better know a lot of songs, and you better be able to write a lot of songs, because the attention span is only for songs and stories. And if you don't have them, you won't get anything done. But I started off with a part-time position filling in for someone that was on maternity leave. And I ended up getting moved to second grade when those same children were entering into second grade. So then I became their second grade teacher. And then on my last year of teaching, I was moved to fourth grade. Or actually, it wasn't. I think I taught fourth grade for a couple of years. So when they were in third grade, I taught fourth grade. And then my last year of teaching before going to Unity School, they were back as my fourth graders. So my little kindergartners were back in class. So on my last year teaching. And so when I left them, I made this little note from Ms. McCabe, and I think it was 2004. And it was titled One Last Lesson. And this came back to me because one of my little girls who I had in kindergarten and second grade and fourth grade, when she was graduating from college, she found me on Facebook and said, Ms. McCabe, is this you? Do you have a copy of that note that you gave to all of us on the last day? Because I've kept it with me this whole time, and I've moved it from place to place, and I'm moving into my new apartment, and I can't find it. And I said, yeah, look, and I got it. And I was just like, what? But you know that little dance like nobody's watching? And I can't read you this whole thing. But this is the gift that we can give. Oh, I love you guys. We live well here. We really do. We're not anything that anyone thinks we are. We are what we are, and it's this wild living thing, aren't we? This wild living thing. I don't know how you put that in an advertisement to come join us. We are a wild living thing, and it's beautiful. Come to UBC. Join us online. We are people living well together and stepping up. But this is our assignment, if you choose to take it on. And breathe into this. But think about your life, and think about what a gift this would be to the people around you, the people who love you, to be able to read this from you, yours, right? To be able to know. Some people just live so loud, you know it. Like you could write it. You could write the song for them because it just oozes out of them. But here's just a little bit. One last lesson from Ms. McCabe. And I wanted to grammar check this, but I'm not going to. It's terrible. You give it to fourth graders and you want to edit it now because there were parts. People will know you. People will know who you are by what you do more than by what you say. Make many friends. You will need each one of them someday. Be your own best friend. You are the one person you are sure to always be with, and no one knows you more. Make good choices. They suit you better than poor ones. Smile often. Your face looks better that way. Laugh and the world laughs with you. Be kind to others, and you will often have a shoulder to cry on and ears to listen when you are down. Stand up for others. No one should stand alone. In an argument, be wise enough to take the first step back. Stand for something. Passion is rare and beautiful. Have confidence in yourself. You will learn it someday anyway, and life is easier when you start out with it. Look for the good thing to do in every situation, then be the one to do it. You will be proud you did. Try hard not to say mean things. They're hard to forget once you've heard them. And once they leave your lips, there will forever be someone who remembers that you said them well after you've forgotten. Ask yourself from time to time, this came from Sally Taylor, how safe, Reverend Sally Taylor, the late, beautiful, winged Reverend Sally Taylor, how safe are the people on the streets of your mind? Set yourself up for success. Think about the requirements, then do a little more. Be one of the first to acknowledge you. Celebrate your life. Every once in a while, do something that is not like you and challenge yourself in a good way. Your thoughts make a difference. Examine your mind. Thoughts create your experience. Remember, you are the queen of your court. You decide what stays and what goes. Sometimes when you hear no, there is a silent choir behind it cheering yes. Look for the yes in life. I'll try to post it on Facebook so you can see it with edit wrong, stuff and all. But what would yours look like? What would your dance like nobody's watching look like? What are the words you want to live by? What are the words you live by? What is your gift to those around you? Richard Rohr says, people who've had any genuine spiritual experience know that they don't know. They are utterly humbled before mystery. They are in awe before the abyss of it all, in wonder at eternity and depth, and a love which is incomprehensible to the mind. Namaste.